we will chat a little bit about Media Vita, the piece that we recorded, but I'd love to start by sort of just looking at your musical upbringing, because you're from a slightly scarily musical family. What are your sort of early memories of music around the house?
So I'd say probably my earliest memory ever, musical-wise, is I used to really like Disney's Fantasia, and there are kind of stories of me spending hours and hours just sitting on it. You know those office chairs that spin round and round? I used to just listen to Fantasia for hours and kind of spin round on the chair. It's just something weird, which is a bit strange. But yeah, I love that. And yeah, obviously I sort of grew up in a cathedral place and spent quite a lot of time in cathedral, and I think that definitely kind of permeated into my head growing up. My mum was a piano teacher as well, so just couldn't really escape.
And so you played the harp and the piano as well as singing. What made you decide to take those up as your instruments?
I think so. Piano I did first, and I really wanted to play the harp for ages, and my parents basically said you can't do that until you got to a competent stage on the piano. And even so, it was something that I ended up doing a bit later on, and I didn't get particularly good at it or anything. I just really liked the sound. And yeah, singing also was a big thing. So I used to sing in the Goss Cathedral Youth Choir, which was, I think that was probably one of the strongest things that made me want to do music in the end. That amazing building and the experience was great.
And obviously you did a lot of practical music, but can you remember the first time you actually started writing music?
I think that was really, really young. My mum found some music in our shed recently that I can send you a picture of.
I'd love to see that.
I wrote it, I don't know, probably about 3 or 4 or something ridiculous. I don't know, I think maybe I just kind of enjoyed making sounds. I don't know. I think Herbert Howells said that he wrote for a sheer love of making sounds. I think it was a similar kind of thing with me, really.
I think when I was about 7, used to write very badly, I should say. But I do actually remember quite vividly the first piece that I wrote, or the first couple of pieces, and they're really terrible. But it's quite nice having that little memory. Do you remember any of those early pieces?
I mean, mine are truly appalling.
By the way, I loved the video you put on Twitter.
It was one of the most annoying things I think I've possibly ever done. There was a lot of splodging.
Did you literally just get your toe and do it like that?
I need thinner, pointy shoes, but I mean, it kind of worked to an extent. So.
But it made me laugh a lot. So. Actual compositional process, this is something I find fascinating because it seems that everyone has a different way of doing it. Do you find that you often sit at the piano and work something out and then take it to paper or take it to a computer, or do you go straight onto paper?
So I always write on paper before going to the computer. I've got various really messy this is my pile of messy.
Oh, very nice.
But yeah, I quite often kind of improvise things at the piano first, and then find that something kind of grows out of one idea organically. I don't know. Yeah, I do like writing on paper.
What's that you're working on at the moment?
What have I got here? So this thing was this was a piece for a group called the E-War Singers, who are a choir in York, and there's various other bits and pieces of stuff here. There's a piece that I wrote for a group called the Strand Consort, which scarily is kind of influenced by Purcell Hear My Prayer.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously cannot begin to compete, but yeah, it's an homage.
Well, I guess because also Media Vita was equally influenced by Shepard's Media Vita. Do you find it more difficult when you're using another piece of music, particularly such an iconic piece of music, as a starting point?
Yeah, in some ways. So in a sort of mental way, I find it more difficult because you're obviously comparing what you're doing against something that's amazing. The Shepherd is obviously, I mean, it's wonderful. It's also about 20 minutes long, so I did a very poor effort with about 3 minutes, but anyway.
I'm quite relieved that it wasn't 20 minutes long. It would have been quite hard to record.
But yeah, from a kind of from another perspective, it's sort of easier because you already have something to work with, and can draw various ideas from that. So yeah, I'd say it's a bit of both.
So when you were writing Media Vita, how did you kind of go about it? What was your starting point?
So I knew the Shepherd piece, and I think I just wanted to, because I felt like I couldn't really compete with it, I think I just wanted to do something a little bit different. So I did a much shorter kind of condensed version that was, I think it was kind of in my own voice, but then I did take bits and pieces from the original version, and the middle section I think is probably the most in some ways.
Yeah, that beautiful imitative section, is that a bit you mean?
Yeah. With that piece, I kind of didn't use. They tried to make it a little bit different from the original.
Well, I think you would have loved some of the harmony that you used, actually. It's this like amazing sort of jazz inflection all the way through, and that very last chord. I think is it the second tenors that go down to the A sharp at the ends, and they just grin every single time. They can't stop smiling.
Because I look back on that now, and I actually question whether or not I like the end. So it's nice to know that they're enjoying it.
Do you get that quite a lot when you're looking back at old pieces? Because obviously with the recording culture now, you kind of can't escape them. They exist and they're there. Do you find it difficult then reflecting on them and thinking that you would change things?
Absolutely. I think I don't know. I remember writing it at the time, thinking, right, this is it. It's finished now. But then, kind of listening back, I do sometimes kind of feel, would I have done that now? I don't know. But I think a lot of composers have that kind of feeling. I think, yeah, Vaughan Williams, I think, said, I don't know if I like it, but I know it's what I meant. And I think that would be the same kind of.
And obviously, I mean, you've had your music performed by groups all over the world. You've had talent scholars, all these amazing people. Is it scary sort of being there and watching a group sing your piece for the first time?
I mean, obviously it's wonderful, and that's one of the kind of best and most exciting moments, I think, of all, is when it comes off the page, and if you're lucky enough to have these amazing groups singing. It's just great. But it's always slightly scary. And it's slightly scary if things don't go quite to plan. But yeah, I mean, there's kind of creative interpretation, isn't there? Between
have you ever had to sort of turn around and say, actually, no, that's not what I meant?
I have. If wrong, then I might say something, but generally, that it doesn't happen that often. And it's always just a privilege to have things performed anyway. So, and it's actually, that's another really great thing, is hearing how people do things differently, and that's always quite interesting.
And obviously a lot of the music that you've written at the moment is choral music, but you said at the very beginning how you used to sit and watch Fantasia, and I read that you also have a sort of lifelong aspiration to be a film composer. Is that still sort of what you want to do?
I don't know. I'd say actually probably not. I think, I don't know if it's sort of come out of being a singer or the fact that I really love choral music. But I think I've sort of found my home in that world. But then, I don't know, it's who knows?
You're obviously juggling composing and teaching as well. How do you find that? Do you find it difficult to actually find the time to sit down and write?
I mean, it's been interesting during the lockdown. I think I was going to say that I hope that it's made me more organised, but maybe that would just be a lie. I don't know. But going back to the whole film point, someone who I sort of massively admire is Thomas Adès, and I just think he's done so many different things, he's written films and amazing operas, and I don't know, one day I'd love to sort of diversify and just be able to do loads of different things. But who knows?
I think it's quite interesting that people often separate off film music as a totally different thing and say that there's no overlap. But actually, looking back, so many big famous classical composers wrote scores for films as well. I mean, Korngold, Vaughan Williams, all these people, and really beautiful film music. And it wasn't frowned upon at the time, and yet now it seems there's this anxiety about any link with film music.
Yeah, I think it's also a kind of changing landscape in a way, in the ways that Korngold and people would be in studios and kind of writing at the piano and all this sort of thing. Whereas now a lot of it is kind of electronic based music, which actually I don't really know how to use. It's kind of clever software programs.
Get your sister to help.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'd love to just, to sort of round things off, look at what you're doing next, because everyone seems to be talking about you at the moment. You're doing very well in the Evensong World Cup as well, which is a huge accolade. So do you have sort of some future projects that you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, it's also just so lovely to hear that people are enjoying my music, which yeah, I'm actually writing a piece for viola at the moment, which is a kind of quite a different skill, particularly as a non-bowed string player. And what else am I doing? I've finished a carol for Wells Cathedral, which will be nice, hopefully. It's one thing that I do think about quite a lot with writing is kind of the influence of the building, and I think quite a lot of the pieces that I really like, you can really hear the kind of sound of the building, if that makes sense. Things like my Gloucester service, I think that was massively influenced by the building, the acoustic, and I don't know, just the kind of feeling of the building. There's a George Benjamin piece that I absolutely love, which was in the year, which I think you can hear the sound of King's Chapel in there, which I think is written for their choir. I don't know. So that's definitely something I think about when writing.
I remember when we did your Gloucester service at Pembroke, and obviously it couldn't really be further away in terms of size of building from Gloucester Cathedral. It's this tiny little chapel with a tiny little organ, so it probably sounded quite different to the original version.
Yeah, again, that's really exciting, and it works. It's interesting hearing how it works in different buildings and with different instruments and organs and so on. As always, it's really cool.
So lastly, I would love to just ask if you have sort of any advice for any budding composers who are sitting there on that desk chair spinning around listening to Fantasia. What would you say to them to kind of kickstart them on their journey?
I would absolutely say just listen to as much music as possible. I did a course at the Purcell School called the Sound and Music Summer School when I think it was probably about 17. And I think it was David Horn who said that to me, just listen to as much as you can, listen to things in different styles and so on. And I think that does really help, just to kind of broaden your ear and listen to as much as possible. And also to just keep going, because I think, it can be quite a difficult thing sometimes if you're really, really trying to kind of, come out with the next masterpiece or whatever. So yeah, don't compare yourself too much, and listen to lots of music and keep writing.
Oh, well, thank you so much for chatting to me. It's been really nice to kind of find out a little bit more, and best of luck with your piano playing with your feet.
Not sure how much more of that I will be doing, but
I'm expecting some sort of big toccata and fugue next with a big pedal solo.